Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another live album ranking, which means we're back at Friday already. Can't believe it. But today's live albums are from a great band, one of my favourite bands. Got loads of favourites, but these are really good. I've been a big fan of these for years. I've seen them. We're talking about Heart. The band formed by Anne and Nancy Wilson. And you got the classic lineup with Roger Fisher, Steve Fossen, Michael DeRosa and Harold Leese. They've had a few incarnations. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013. They've had more spats, them two sisters, than anyone else. I think they're having a bit of a hissy fit at the moment. But who knows if they'll get back together and make some music. But they've released 9 official albums live, and I have got some honourable mentions for you today because they are worth a good mention. So, coming in at number 9, this is released in 1980 and it's Greatest Hits stroke live. It's a compilation album that's got some greatest hits studio and some new tracks and some live recordings. So on the greatest hits tracks you get Barracuda, Silver Wheels, Crazy on You, Straight On, Dreamboat, Annie, Even It Up, Magic Man, Heartless, Dog and Butterfly, Be the Strange. And the new tracks you got on here is a thing called Tell It Like It Is. Now this is quite good. I like this one because it's got that 1940s feel and you got the two sisters singing. It's pretty good. Then we get the Minstrel live. That's alright. Hit single. It's a load of rubbish. It's just loads of noises. Strange Euphoria. Not my cup of tea at all. The Minstrel wins live, and then on the other part of the disc we've got Sweet Darling live, I'm Down, Long Tall Sally, bit of a Beatles thing, Unchained Melody and Rock and Roll. It's okay. It's not a bad little album. I've only got it because I'm one of these purists, and if I've got every album, I have to have every album. But I'll give it an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10 because it's not too bad. Okay, then coming in at number 8, album that was released in 2014. It's called Heart and Friends, Home for the Holidays. It was released on the 12th of December 2013, and it was recorded at the Benedora Symphony Hall in Seattle. So we got Anne and Nancy, vocals and guitars and mandolins, Don Rothschild on the bass, Ben Smith on the drums, guitars Craig Bartok, keyboards Debbie Shah, violin Ben Mink, vocals Patrick Mahuan, guest vocals and guitars Sammy Hagar and Sean Colvin. So we get The River, Seasons, Rockin', which is features Sean Colvin, Love Came Down at Christmas. Then we get a poem from Anne, All Through the Night, which featured Richard Marx. All We Need Is an Island, featuring Mr. Sammy Hagar. Santa's Going South, featuring Sammy as well. Please Come Home from Christmas, featured Pat Mohan. Remember Christmas, Barracuda, Even It Up, a really good version of Stairway to Heaven, and Ring Them Bells, featuring Pat Mahoran, Richard Mark and Sean Colvin. It's a good album. It's one that I put on once a year, and it's a really nice listen. So I'm going to give that an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay then, coming at number 7. This is an album released in 1995 and it's called The Road Home. It's an unplugged sort of album which they recorded in their hometown of Seattle. It's actually produced by John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, So on here we've got Ann Wilson and Nancy doing their bit. Howard Leese is on guitars. John Paul Jones plays piano, bass, mandolin. Fernando Saunders on the bass. Denny Fongsizer on the drums. Gary Gersh percussion. Kirsten Barry background vocals. And the Seattle Symphony string section. So we have acoustic string versions of River, Dog and Butterfly, Upon the Cherry Blossom Road, Back to Avalon, Alone, which is really nice as an acoustic. These Dreams, again, really good as an acoustic. Dreamboat Annie is just great anyway. Seasons, Dream of the Archer, Love Alive, All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You, it's alright. Straight On's pretty good. Minstrel, Barracuda doesn't work, that needs to rock. Love Hurts, it's a nice version of that. Crazy on You and The Road Home. I do find this album a real refreshing acoustic album. I mean, when you've got a singer like Ann Wilson, it's always going to sound good, isn't it? So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, then coming in at number 6, an album released in 2014. It's Frantic, live at Caesars Colosseum. It's recorded during the last show of their North American tour of 2012. So we've got Ann Wilson on the flute and guitar, Nancy Wilson guitar and mandolin and vocals, Debbie Shah on keyboards, Ben Smith's on the drums, Diane Rothschild's on the bass. We've got Lucine Pestrin on the cello, Svelveta, Lana Monsteroff on violin, Roman Kazarev on viola, Molly Hughes on violin. So the set for this one is obviously a lot of songs off Frantic. We've got Frantic, Heartless, What About Love, Mashallah, Even It Up, 59 Crunch, Straight On, Dog and Butterfly sounds great on here. Walking Times, These Dreams, an interesting version of Alone, Dear Old America, Crazy on You, and Barracuda. Once again, it's a very good live album. It just sounds great. Give this one an RTO ranking of 7.6. Okay, coming in number 5, an album that was recorded at the Royal Albert Hall in London in 2016, and it's with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and we've got Benjamin Smith on drums, Craig Bartok guitar, Nancy Wilson guitar, Christopher Joyner keyboards, and on the vocals, of course. Great set this is. Magic Man, Heaven, Dreamboat Annie, What About Love, I Jump, Sweet Darling, To These Dreams, Alone, Beautiful Broken's brilliant with the orchestra, Mashallah, Silver Wheels, which is a great track with the orchestra, Crazy on You, Sand, and then they do an absolutely brilliant version of Led Zeppelin's No Quarter, absolutely killer. Barracuda and Kick It Out, great little album. Highlight on here is No Quarter, and Barracuda just doesn't sound right with an orchestra. But on the whole, it's a great album, and I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 4, we have an album released in 1991, and it's called Rock the House Live. It was recorded at the Centre in Worcester, Massachusetts on the 28th of November 1990. Ann Wilson on the lead vocals, Nancy Wilson on the guitars and vocals, Howard Leese, Mark Andes and Denny Kasami. I saw them on this tour, so this album's quite special for me. Opens up with Wild Child, which is great live, off the Brigade album. Fallen from Grace, written by Sammy Hagar, one of the people that's on it. Really good. Call of the Wild, great. How Can I Refuse, Shell Shock, Love a Lie, Under the Sky is brilliant on here, much better than the studio version. The Night again is brilliant live. Tall Dark Handsome Stranger really rocks live. If Looks Could Kill, Who Will You Run To, quite happy. Then they do a version of You're the Voice, which was done by, what was his name, John Farnham. The Wayback Machine, and a belting version of Barracuda. I'm very fond of this album. I think it's because I saw them, and a lot of these 80s tracks sound so much better live. They are heavy in their raw rock. As I've always said, this 80s sounding albums, put them live and they sound how I think they should have been. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.4. Okay, then coming in at number 3, this is an album that was recorded in 2006 but wasn't available till 2019, and it's live at Atlantic City, and it was recorded at the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City for VH1's Decades Rock Live Show. There's quite a mixture on here. It marked the first time that William DeVille performed with Alice in Chains as a guest. DeVille then started touring with Alice in Chains. So we've got Ann Wilson on lead vocals, Nancy Wilson backing vocals, Craig Bartok guitars, Mike Inez on the bass, Debbie Shaw on the keyboards, and Ben Smith on drums. And then we've got Alice in Chains here, Jerry Cantrell's on here, Shaw Kinney, William DeVille, Phil Asumo and Duff McKagan. Opens up with Be Lestrange with Dave Navarro on guitar from Jane's Addiction. Absolutely brilliant. Straight On again with Dave Navarro. Crazy On You with Dave Navarro, pretty good. Lost Angel, Even It Up with a country singer, Gretchen Wilson, really sounds. They do Rock and Roll with Gretchen. Then Dog and Butterfly with Rufus Wainwright joining them. He's a Canadian singer-songwriter. Wood, which is a Alice in Chains number. It's absolutely brilliant on here. You get the best of both worlds on this. Rooster, which features Anne and Nancy. Pretty good. Alone with Carrie Underwood. Now Carrie Underwood won American Idol. Magic Man. Then they do a brilliant version of Misty Mountain Hop with Dave Navarro. Dreamboat Annie, pretty good. And then Barracuda. We've got Jerry Cantrell, Dave Navarro, Dave McKagan and Rufus Wainwright rocking this one out. Great album. This is a great live album. Alice in Chains up there, Dave Navarro. Great little album. Got some really good sounds on this, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, coming in number 2. This is recorded on the Summer of Love tour in 2002 and released in 2003, and it's alive in Seattle. They do a lot of recordings in their hometown. On here we've got Ann Wilson and Nancy, Scott Olson on lead and rhythm guitars, Tom Kellock on keyboards, Mike Inez on the bass and Ben Smith on drums. Opens up with Crazy On You, great classic track. Then they had a new song at the time, Sister Wild Rose. It's a great little rocker, like that song. Then we have The Witch, which is a Sonics cover, not a bad version. Straight On's brilliant on here. These Dreams always sounds better live, I think. Minstrel Wind is pretty good. A really good version of Alone. I prefer the live version. Then we get Dog and Butterfly, which is always brilliant. Then we get Elton John cover, Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatter's. Great version of that, and does that justice. A really good version of Led Zeppelin's Battle of Evermore. They do quite a lot of Led Zeppelin covers on their live sets, and they're pretty good. Heaven, which is a newer song, and it was very good. Magic Man, great version of that. Then another new song, Two Faces of Eve. This is really good. It really sounds like their 70s stuff. Great track. Love Alive, Break the Rock, a new song. Out of all the new songs on this live album, this is a belter. It's a great vocal from Anne. Barracuda, Wild Child. God, that sounds good on here. Then we have Black Dog by Led Zeppelin. And then we have the Dreamboat Annie reprise. Really good album. Again, the covers they do on here are really good. especially the Led Zeppelin songs. And does a great job. I've heard some male-backed, male singers sing things like Black Dog and Rock and Roll, and absolutely blows them out the park. Great stuff. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.6. So my number one album is recorded in 2007, and it is Dreamboat Annie Live. So we've got on here Ann Wilson, Nancy Wilson, Kay Bartok, Debbie Shah, Rick Mangan on the bass, and Ben Smith. So basically we get Magic Man, Dreamboat Annie, Fantasy Child, Crazy on You, brilliant, Dreamboat Annie, White Lightning and Wine, Love Me Like Music, I'll Be Your Song, Sing Child, How Deep It Goes, and Dreamboat Annie reprise, Minstrel Wind, Goodbye Blue Sky. Then we get Black Dog, Misty Mountain Hop, a fantastic version of The Who's Love Reign Over Me, Love Alive, and a fantastic version of John Lennon's Isolation. I love this album. I mean, Dreamboat Annie is my favourite Heart album, always has been, and to hear it live, okay, it's not got the original lineup, but it's a stonking version of it. So I'm going to give that an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay, I have got some honourable mentions now, and these are all albums that are on Spotify, so they are there if you want to listen to them. They all released in the last couple of years, and most of them are radio broadcasts. So the first one we're going to look at is a thing that they've titled Ship of Dreams, and it was recorded in Los Angeles in 1977, so it'll have the classic lineup on this. So the tracks that's on this, only a little short one, but they are brilliant. We've got Kick It Out, Silver Wheels, Dreamboat Annie, Little Queen, which is absolutely stonking on here, Magic Man, and Barracuda, and Crazy on You. Great little album. Raw, raucous rock. Okay, the next one I'm going to look at is a thing that was called Take the Freedom, recorded live at the Capitol Theatre in New Jersey in 1979. So it is the classic lineup. So we've got an intro, Cook with Fire, High Times, Heartless, Devil Delight, Straight On, Magic Man, Love Alive, Magazine is brilliant on here, Minstrel Wind, Dog and Butterfly, Silver Wheels, Crazy on You, Kick It Out, Barracuda, White Lightning and Wine, and Rock and Roll. It's just great hearing these early tracks live with the classic lineup. Brilliant little album. And the next one we have called Spellbound Live, 1982, recorded at the Empire Stadium, Vancouver. This one opens up with Be Strange, Magic Man, Even It Up, Raised on You, Dog and Butterfly, Minstrel Wind, Crazy on You, Rockin' Heaven Down, Barracuda, Break, Rock and Roll. Again, it's just a great album. You know, hearing songs that you don't normally hear that have been on the official live albums. Great little album, check that one out as well. The next one is called Turn My Heart Away, that was recorded in Greenville in 1983. On here we've got Sleep Alone, Blue Guitar, Cities Burning, Crazy on You, Beat by Jealousy, Love Mistake, Johnny Moon, which is great, Minstrel Wind, Straight On, Even It Up, Bibler Strange, How Can I Refuse, Allies, Barracuda and Magic Man. And the last one is called Wings of Desire, live in 1987, and it was recorded at the Portland Colosseum on the Bad Animals tour, and some great live versions. Bad Animals is great on here, live is much better. The Wolf's great, Barracuda, Nothing at All, What About Love, Dreamboat Annie, great version of These Dreams. Straight On, Never, sounds even better live than on the Heart album. I don't know if this was the Heart album or the Bad Animals, one of them two, because a lot of the strings come from that. If Looks Could Kill, brilliant version of that. Be Strange, a brilliant version of Alone and Rock and Roll. Go and check them out. They are on Spotify. If you put in Heart and bring up their albums, you'll find them. They're worth a listen. I love them because it's got a lot of the early tracks. So there we are. There's a bit of Heart for you on a Friday. I'll be back very shortly. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. And I'll be back to do a new album review. We're going to look at the new album from The Boss. Only the Strong Survive. It's a covers album, but it's a really good covers album. So join me for that very shortly. Bye for now.